Hi, everybody. I went live a little early because I need to get some other equipment set up here. So hopefully you'll be able to hear me. Second here, I was going to open up the picture of what we're going to do tonight. There we go. And I got to get my computer on my tablet on here on the live. Oh, there we go. I can see myself. So, okay. I went live a little early because I need to get some other equipment. All right. Whoops, second here. Is everybody hearing me okay? Trying to make sure I go. There we go. Hi, everybody. I got a few people coming in. Hi, everybody. So hopefully you're hearing me okay. Send me some little thumbs ups or something so I know you're hearing me. Looks like people are saying, coming in. Oh, hi, Kathy. Hi, Denise. Hi, Pat. Oh, it's Cindy. Hi, Cindy. Oh, cool. So you're hearing me all right? Yeah, send me some thumbs ups if you're hearing me okay. Can you see my screen? There should be the picture of the towels up there on the screen, so hopefully you can see me. Oh, hi, Marianne. You can hear me okay? Good. Yeah, I never know when I do this because I have to share my screen. So like I can't tell unless I have a separate computer sitting next to me. So I always have my tablet next to me. So I can see your comments and all that stuff. So how's everybody this evening? It's a beautiful day. Has everybody been outside today? Hi, Marcia. Hi, Jerry. Oh, hi, Evie. Yeah, so we're going to make this embossed towel. Now, I did this class many years ago. This is a class that is adapted from a class that Kathy Quinn sent years ago for the Floriani software, which is now the Dime software. And hi, Margaret. Hi, Pat. Oh, hi, Marilyn. There's a lot of people coming in. Hi, everybody. So this is one of my, like, there was like 3 classes that I really liked that they did, and this was one of them. This makes wonderful gifts because we all have weddings and graduations and stuff. So this is a really simple, easy gift to make, and then it's personalized and it's not hard to make at all, and you can do them yourself. So that's what we're going to do. So the other 2 I really liked, and we've done those, is we did the recipe towels with the lettering a while back, and then we did that little USB pouch, which I really love, and then I've always loved this embossed monogram. So we're gonna do this tonight, and then next month we're gonna do. I've been taking some classes. Um, that are some inspiration, the Dime software, some tutorials, and I found some really cool ideas for classes. And in June, we're gonna make red work. I've always struggled with the software to get a nice continuous outline to make red work designs, and so I went through this tutorial and it was one little thing, and all of a sudden it just clicked in my brain. So we're gonna do some red work next month. Oh, hi, Mary. Oh, hi, Lori. So there's lots of people in here tonight. So we'll wait a couple more minutes. I don't like to start too early. Oh, by the way, I uploaded the file to the Dropbox in Sessions on Software with all of the notes from this. It's called Embossed Monogram Towel. So when you go to the Dropbox link, and it's the first post on the group, and it's the link to the Dropbox, and it's called Embossed Monogram Towel. So you can download the instructions and also the sewing instructions. And then I put a picture of this up there, this picture that I'm showing you right now. I put that up there too, so that you'd have that to kind of go by so you can see what it looks like. So I just got done uploading that to the group. So what's everybody been doing today? Have you been outside in this beautiful weather? Hopefully everybody's been outside. I haven't really been out much today. I kind of got started, well, I had to make some masks for a friend of mine who's a nurse. She didn't have enough masks, so I made her some masks today, and I worked on a little software and went through the class, and so I've been a little lazy today. So I made 5 masks and I got them all ready to go. Hi, Mary. Got them all ready to go to Dubuque. So that was my big sewing. You've been sewing too, Denise? Cool. Hi, Denise. How are you? Yeah, so I did that today, and then I'm going to work on some more software tonight after class. I wanted to do some more of those skill building lessons that I've been doing. Biking. Oh, you've been biking. It's a very nice day for biking, Marianne. You know, I don't have a bike anymore. I should get a bike. I kind of miss biking. The my bike, it's hard for me to have a place to put it though. Oh, you made it. Hi, Lynn. Oh, you just left everybody upstairs that you had must have had dinner tonight, huh? Yeah, so we haven't started yet. So we'll be starting here in a minute. I was going to wait till about five after. So, okay, so let's go ahead and get started. And there may be some more people that'll come in. People have a little trouble sometimes finding me on the one Sunday a month. You know, we have class on the sessions group instead of on the sewing group. So sometimes people have a little trouble finding me at first. So, okay, so the screen right now that I have up. How is my dad? My dad is doing fine, Denise. I miss him. So, and how is your dad doing? And Lynn, I hope your dad's doing well. So anyway, dad is doing fine. I miss him, and he misses hugging me, he said. So that we talked about that last night. It was funny. He's funny. So, okay. So the first, I've got up on the screen, that is the towel. I have these towels actually hanging in my bathroom. I needed a towel rack to cover up something that happened on my wall. So I put up these pretty towels. I made 3 of them, and they're so easy. And you can make them with just as ornery as ever. Yeah. Well, my dad's sometimes kind of ornery too. So, yep, he's funny. It's dads are funny, aren't they? So anyway, this is such a wonderful project, and I know some of you were hoping to be able to do these as gifts, and they do make wonderful wedding gifts, wonderful um, uh, graduation gifts, because you can put a monogram, and the monogram I'm using is my last name, but you can always put the first initial, whatever you want to do. You could put something different, like something else in the center other than a monogram, but monograms are great. You could put like the monogram for the school name if it's a college student, you know, that type of thing. So there's lots of things you can do with these. And generally, when you sew them, as you can see in the picture here, you sew them with kind of matching thread to the towel. So what I've done is I picked kind of a tan color that matches my towel. So they're kind of matchy because what happens is you are holding down the towel nap with these motif stitches, and what's coming up through it is what you're going to see, and that's the nap comes up through the middle of the S. So even though these look difficult to make, they're really super easy. Doesn't take very long to digitize them, and you can just, you know, make as many letters as you want. So it's very simple. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close this, and we'll get the software open here. And this is Perfect Embroidery Pro. You know, most of you now realize that your stuff says, I made some, and oh, it said Mr. Right and Mrs. Always Right. Yeah, that would be good too. Yeah, you could use this technique. You know, this is just going to be a monogram, but yeah, you could do anything in them that you wanted. It's done the same way. So when you see how it's done, you can put anything in them. You could make them any shape you want them to be, anything like that. So it's very easy. Okay. So let's go ahead, and I close that, and then we're gonna open up, and of course we all know that the icon on our desktop now says Embroidery Tool Shed. So we're gonna double click on the Embroidery Tool Shed here. And all of the Dime software now is like encompassed into embroidery tool shed. So, oh, mate, you just finished the quilting. Yay, Judy. Judy's been quilting quilts today, she said. So, okay. All right, so we got our software open, and we are going to click down here at create a new design. So that's what I want to do. It's going to create a new design, and then I'm going to, let me second here, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger here. Well, might leave it that way because that little thing at the bottom of my screen makes it a little hard for you to see. So there we go. Okay. All right, so there's my screen. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to set up the workspace a little bit. Sometimes I need to, I just opened this and kind of ran through this today. So mine's kind of set up already, but we do want to set up our workspace. And to do that, you're going to right click on the ruler bar at the top first. I'm going to right click, and I want to make sure that I have inches selected because I would like to work in inches. I want to make sure that I have show grid checked or selected. And then I'm going to go into the grid settings. So I'm going to click on the word grid settings now. And I want my spacing to be 1 inch by 1 inch. So I'm going to type in 1 inch by 1 inch. And mine was already set up that way because I already did it today. In this screen, I want to make sure that I have that snap to grid unchecked. I don't want it to snap to grid for this exercise. There's times when we need that. And then I want to show as solid lines. So the lines will be solid. You can also do it as dots or dashed lines, whichever you prefer. But I kind of like the solid lines because I can see where the blocks are a little better. Okay, and then I'm going to click OK. So I've selected what I want. I'm going to click OK. And then my grid will come up on my screen at 1 inch blocks. All right, it's a little warm in here. I had to take a drink of water. Okay, so to start this, we need, and you saw the picture. So if you give me a second here, let's bring that picture back up just a second. And okay, so the picture, the first thing we're going to make is this outside border. Okay, and then we'll make the inside square with the S in it. Okay, so I'll leave that up and bring this up. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start with the artwork tools. I do a lot of stuff with artwork tools to start with when it comes with drawing, and they are not stitches. Remember, the artwork tools are not stitches. They're just artwork, and then we can make them into stitches of any kind we want. So I'm going to go up here to the artwork tools, which are the little pencil, the circle, and the square. And if you click on the little arrow next to it, it gives you some choices of different shapes. And we're going to choose the rectangle today. And when I pull my cursor over into my workspace, now it looks like a little plus sign with like a square attached to it. And I'm going to look over here at my artwork in my, I'm going to look over here in my properties box, and I would like my artwork, actually, instead of an outline, I would like it to be a fill. So I'm going to choose fill, and I'm going to click apply. And now all I want to do is I'm just going to randomly draw a square. So you kind of start kind of in the top left-hand corner of your screen. I put the mouse button down, and I'm just going to pull down to the bottom right, and it will just draw a square. Okay. And remember, this is just an artwork. It is not stitches yet. So I want to select this because now we need to edit it. And anytime you edit, you need to have the item selected. So I'm going to go up and get my selection tool, which is the top one up over in the left, the little arrow. I'm going to click that and see now I've got the boxes around the square that I drew. I'm going to look over in my properties box again, and I am going to click on the transform tab because I want to make this a certain size. And since I didn't really, I just drew a square, it's not in proportion. So I need to deselect maintain aspect ratio. and I'm going to type in the size for the width and the height that I want this to be. Now this is going to be a square, so I want it to be 6 inches by 6 inches. And then I'm going to click apply. And as you can see, it fills my entire screen. So I want it to be, I'm going to go up here to the zoom. That's where that 200% is. I'm going to click on the zoom and I'm going to go down to fit so that I can see my entire square that I just drew. Okay. Now, I learned something in these lessons that I've been taking. You know, I learned something new about this software. I use this software from the year 2007 till the year 2014 exclusively. But from 2014 till about 2018, so there was about 4 years that they were upgrading the software and I didn't see it for 4 years. So these little classes that I've been taking have been wonderful because there's some of that little stuff that I didn't know it was there. So there's several ways to I like to center everything on my workspace so that I know exactly where the center is. So I can do that. You can see my little red and green little start stop sign thing here, okay? And then inside that, I can use my hand and I can grab it and I can pull, there's a little X. I don't know if you can see it terribly well on the screen. And then I can take my control key and I can move this around with my little nudge buttons or the arrow buttons on my keyboard. Okay, so I've got my control key down, I'm moving around. However, when I was doing one of these classes, I was so excited because they have added something that they had never had before. If you go back up to the ruler bar and you right click, look, center origin. In other words, put it in the center of my workspace. So all I have to do is click that button now and look, it's centered. That was something new I learned in the very first lesson. So I was very excited about that. And if you do not have on your screen this little stop sign, remember you go up to view and make sure that start stop is checked. There's a little word start stop. Make sure that's checked. So if it's not checked, see there's no red and green circle. I like to have it checked so that I know where my center is. So if you go up to view and then down to start stop, it will show up in the green and the red. It's much easier to see than the black, okay? Or like I just did, I can right click and I can go down to center origin. So that is such a wonderful new tool. I didn't even know it was there. I didn't pay attention to when I looked at the list. I always use the grid settings and then I usually don't go much lower than that and I didn't realize it was there. So something new for me. Okay. So we've got this square that is 6 by 6 centered in our workspace. I'm going to deselect it. And if it's selected, to deselect something, just go over and click on the white design page somewhere to deselect it. Okay. Now, remember we're doing a border and it needs to be thin and there's a hole in the center for us to put another square. So now I need to draw another rectangle. So I'm going to go back up to my artwork tool and I'm going to get the rectangle again. I'm going to go down though. I want this to be a different color so it's easy to see. Because if I would just draw another square, the same color, it'd be very difficult to select it. So I'm going to go down here and right click on the color number 3, just so it's a different color. And then I'm going to go back up into the middle here and just draw another square like I did before. Hold my mouse button down and pull down, oops, second here, if I can get it. I think I need to undo, there we go. Yep, there we go. And pull down from like the top left to the bottom right just to get a square. Doesn't matter how big it is because we can fix that. So I've got my second square. I made it green so I could see it. And now I'm going to go back up here to my properties box again. And I'm going to click on the, whoops, second here. I have to select it first. Give me a second. I forgot to select it. So I have to go get my selection tool. There we go. So now it's selected. And I'm going to go over here to the transform tab. Now this square, I want it to be, the other one was 6 inches. I want this one to be 5 inches. So I have this maintain aspect ratio deselected again, and I want to change it to 5 by 5. And then I'm going to click apply, like that. Now you can see I didn't do too well centering my squares, did I? So the green square is selected, and I need to get a hold of the blue one as well. So if I hold my control key down and then go over and click on the blue square, I've got them both selected now. And I'm going to right click, because I want these to be centered on each other perfectly. I'm going to right click, I'm going to align, and then I'm going to line center. So that is now centered inside the blue square. The blue square, we had already centered it on the workspace. So now everything is centered on the workspace. Okay. So does anybody have any questions so far? How I drew these two squares with the artwork tool. I had to change it to a fill up in my properties box. Oh, the one thing I wanted to mention, if you're not seeing your sequence view at the bottom here, make sure, remember we've got all these tabs at the bottom. And sometimes when it opens up the software first time, it'll come up with, with the purchases. It's the little shopping cart at the bottom. That's the programs that you have. And if it says that instead of sequence view, the first little icon at the bottom is the sequence view. So make sure you click on that when you're starting to digitize, because then you can see what you're doing. Okay. Okay, so there are our first two squares. They're both artwork. Now, I would just like this to be a border though. I don't want the big green square in the center. I just want it to be the hollow square around the outside edge. So what I'm going to do is I am going to, I've aligned them already. They're still selected, both of them, and I'm going to right click again. And this is a wonderful tool. This is combine. So all I'm going to do is click combine, and look, the center is gone, and all I have is my border. So there's my first border that I'm going to use. Okay. See how easy that was? So I had them centered, and then, yep, they're combined is what they call it. It's called combine in this one. Some softwares have different ones, have different names for this, like PE Design calls it hole sewing. So the items have to be inside of each other like this, and then you can make it, they call it hole sewing. But in PEP, they call it combine. Okay. So we've got our border. So that's that first border. So let's look at it in the stitch out. So here's that border right here. Okay, we got that. Now we're going to work on this inside square. Okay, so the inside square, I'm going to go back up to my artwork tool again. So we'll go back up here, click on the little arrow, and get the rectangle again. I am going to just go up over here and draw another square. Hold my mouse button down and drag, just any size. Okay. Then I'm going to select that square by getting the selection tool. So it's selected. You can see the boxes around the outside edge. I'm going to go over again to the properties box, and I'm going to click the transform tab again. And this square, I would like to be 4 inches by 4 inches. Lynn, make sure if yours didn't combine, make sure you have both squares selected. If you only have one selected, they will not combine. So make sure you go up to either edit select all, or make sure both of your squares are selected, and then they will combine. Okay. They also need to be within each other. So like if you have one of your squares was kind of hanging out over the edge or something, it won't combine. Make sure that everything's centered. Okay. All right. So then this square, I want it to be 4 by 4. Now I am going to leave that maintain aspect ratio deselected. I'm going to go up here into the width and put 4 inches, and the height and put 4 inches. And then I'm going to click apply. So there's my 4 inch by 4 inch square. And again, I want to align these in the center. So I have my green square already selected. I'm going to hold the control key down and I'm going to select the blue border. I'm going to right click, align, and center. Okay. There are a few, some of these icons also, just so you know, are now the align center is not up here, but like if you want to use the combine, there's actually there's an icon up on the workspace up here, and it's the one with the paper clip, and that's the combine. So you don't have to right click. I learned the right click commands right away, and I've always used right click. So you can do it either way. I use the icons also, but there are a couple of ways to do this. Okay. All right. So we have that aligned in the center. Make sure I don't miss this. I have to make sure I don't miss a step. Okay. So now we have our 1-inch border. Okay. And we have a negative space of 1 inch. And then we have a 4-inch inside. Okay. Actually, it's a 1/2 inch. It's a 1/2 inch, a 1/2 inch, and then a 4-inch. Sorry. So we have this space. So when I look at this, oh, hi, Sharon. So when you look at this, then we have that white space, we have our square, and then we have our border. Now we need to put in a letter in the center. And the letter needs to be hollow. You know, it needs to be just an outline of the letter because we want the nap of the towel to poke out, you know, through the center. So this is what we're going for. So this is going to be solid, but then this part is going to be hollow like this border right here is. Okay. So the first thing, so this is what we're going to use true type fonts. And when you use a true type font, what a true type font is, it's a font that's on your computer that you can bring in, and it comes in as a piece of artwork. Okay, so if depending on what you have on your computer, my letters may be different than yours. So it just depends on what kind of software you have on your computer that has different fonts. And then there's a lot of really good places you can get free true type fonts, and like Dafont, DAFONT.com is a really good place to get fonts. And the one I'm using tonight, I did actually upload it to the group in the Monogram Towel folder, because it's called Storybook. This was just one that I like, that I've used for a long time, and it's a nice, you want to pick a letter when you're doing these that's rather bold and kind of on the chunky side, because remember, we're working with that nap, and we want to make sure there's plenty of space for the nap to come up through and you really can see the letter. So don't choose those really tiny little thin fonts, because there's not going to be room for the nap to come up. So this one is kind of a cool font. It's a little more scrolly, but it's kind of a chunky font. Okay, so it's called Storybook. I did upload that so that you can install it on your computers. And if you have questions about how to install true type fonts, just message me and I'll explain it. It's very simple. Okay, so I am going to now bring in my letter. So I'm going to go up to File, Import True Type Text. So import TT text is what you do. So I'm going to import it. Now this little import box comes up, and I'm going to type in whatever letter or letters that I want. So I'm just going to type the letter S because I just want my last name on the towel. Second, I'm going to turn the page. And then I want to find my font. Okay. And if you go next to the font, there's little dots right here. And I'm going to click on the little dots, and then it's going to bring up this other box. And all the fonts that are on my computer are in this list. And so you have to kind of, scroll down till you find what you want. And you can kind of look through. But like I said, look for ones that are kind of bold and a little bit on the chunky side, because then they work better with the fuzzy stuff, with the towel. So I am looking for Storybook. So it's under S. They're in alphabetical order. See if I can find Storybook. I know it's on here somewhere. There it is. Storybook. So I'm going to use that one. And then I'm going to choose, that was my font. Now the style, I want it to be bold. So if you choose bold, it's going to thicken it up a little bit more. So when I had medium, I don't know if you can see it on the screen, but when I click on bold, it makes it thicker. And then that opening is bigger so that the towel can poke up through the middle, okay? So I'm going to do that. And then the size on mine defaulted to 300, which is like points, like when you type with like typewriters and keyboard fonts, they have different points, and it's 300 is what it defaults at. So I want it to be big. We're going to make it bigger than that actually, but that's a good size. So I'm going to click OK, pull this little box up so you can see. I'm going to click OK. And then I'm going to click OK one more time. And it's going to bring in my S. So my S showed up here. I can't see it very well yet. So we're going to do something so you can see it better. First, I'm going to resize it because I want it to be larger. And remember, this is also just artwork. It's not a stitch file yet. So what I'm going to do, I've got it selected, the selection boxes are there. I'm going to go back over to my properties box and I'm going to click transform. And then I'm going to I want the height to be 2.25 inches, but I want it to go up together this time. So I'm going to click maintain aspect ratio. And then I'm going to type in the height. I know I wanted it to be 2.25 inches, so 2.25. And if you don't know exactly how big you want it, you may have to experiment a little bit with your sizes. You can do it and then look at it and like, yeah, I don't like that, so you can change the size. But this seemed to work well for me. And then I'm going to click apply over here. So that made my S much larger. I can also center this in the workspace. So I can either take my little hand and pull it down into the center, or I could also, I'm going to undo, I could have gone up here to right click, center origin, and it brings it to the center. I could have used my control key with my arrow keys. Okay, so there's all these different options of centering it. Okay. Now I want this to be a fill so I can see it, so I can work with it more. And so it's an outline right now. So if you go back over to the properties box again, with it selected, I can choose the type of fill. So I'm going to click fill, and then I'm going to click apply. So now I can see that letter in there, see what it's doing. Okay. Now I would like my embossed letter, as you can see from my picture. Let's look at the picture again. I had sewing on point. So I would like it to be like a diamond or a square on point. So we're going to twist that artwork around so that it's on point. So what I'm going to do is I am going to deselect the letter. So to do that, what I do is I click over here on the white. I don't want the letter selected anymore. I would like to select the green square. I'm going to hold my control key down and I'm going to select the blue border. So I have those two items selected. I'm going to go back over here to my properties box and click on the transform tab. I would like this to be rotated 45 degrees. So I'm just going to, the rotate button, the box right here, I'm going to type in 45 and I'm going to click apply. Like that. Then I would like to be able to see the entire thing on my screen at once. So again, I'm going to run up here to the zoom area. I'm going to click on that and I'm going to zoom to fit so that I can see my entire project right now. Okay. So is there anybody got any questions? We used true type text. We've used combine. We've rotated. We've used the properties box. Is there any questions? Everybody's still there, I think. I've been seeing some, is there any questions from anybody? And everybody's still hearing me okay, right? So I can kind of tell when you're to the point where I'm at. So you doing okay? Oop, got some thumbs ups. We're doing all right? Okay. So, but we still do not have, this is still all artwork. And right now, the S is a solid artwork on top of that box. Well, we really don't want that to sew. We want the whole to sew. Okay. So we need to combine the letter and the square in the center. So I'm going to select the green square. I'm going to hold my, actually, let's do it this way. It's a little easier to do let's do the letter first. So I'm going to select the letter, I'm going to hold my control key down, and I'm going to select the green square in the center. And we're going to do the same thing we did with the border. We're going to right click and we're going to combine. And now I have the hole in the middle that is the shape of my letter. I have my square and I have my border. So we have all the elements of our design. Now we need to make them into stitches so we can sew them. Right now they're still just artwork. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start. Let's start with the border. We're gonna select the blue border. So I'm just gonna click on the blue border. Then I'm going to right click on it, right click. I'm going to convert to, and I want this to be a fill. So I'm going to click complex fill. Then I'm going to look over my properties box. It gives me all these options, and I want my fill to be, instead of a standard fill, I would like it to be a motif fill. So I'm going to click on the little down arrow and I'm going to choose motif. There's lots of different fill options. And I've tried a few different motifs. These two that I did tonight really work well. They're more open and they're not quite as dense. You can play around. There's tons of motifs. So if I click on this little arrow where the pattern is, there's, I don't know, a lot. There are nearly 200 of these things, and they're all really cool. So this one that I chose for the border was 105. So I'm going to choose 105. And I want my pattern length to be smaller. The default is very big. So I'm going to use the pattern length, second here, I'm going to highlight that and I'm going to use the pattern length of 3 millimeters. And then I'm going to click apply. Now I'll warn you, it may take a minute for this to populate because sometimes it's a little bit slow. There's a lot of stitches in these. Now mine actually populated pretty quickly today, so it's already done. So that's not bad. Now I also want to go to my commands tab because we've done this before. I want to go back up to the properties box to the commands tab. I want a tie in of basic, a tie off of basic, and I want to apply. So that way at the beginning and at the end, it's going to tie a knot so that nothing will come unstitched for me. Especially with the towel, that's really important because you're going to be washing the towel possibly a lot. So, okay. Now, if we look at the picture again, we've got our fill in here. But if you look at my picture of my towel, I don't know if you can see it very well, but there's a beautiful satin stitch outline around my border. And I want that satin stitch to go around there just to finish off everything. So this is a really easy way to do this. And I don't know how many of you have done this, but if you, let's say you have a fill area and you want to make a quick border on it, all you have to do is we're going to copy what we've already done. So I'm going to copy this. I'm just going to go up and click the copy button. It's the 2 pieces of paper. So I'm going to click copy and I'm going to click paste. So now I have, if you look down here in my sequence view, I have 2 complex fills. Well, I don't need 2 of those. I want one to be a complex fill and I want the other one to be a satin stitch outline. And this software calls that a steel stitch. So I'm going to make sure the second one is selected. I'm going to right click on it, convert to a steel. And I have these beautiful outlines around my border now. And we didn't have to draw again or anything. Okay, so I need to change some of the settings a little bit for this. So I'm going to go back up to the properties box. Now it says steel. So it's the properties box. I'm going to change the width to 2 millimeters. I want it a little narrower. I'm going to click apply. And I also want to make sure that I have a tie in and a tie off. So I'm going to go over to the commands tab, make sure that I have a tie in of basic and a tie off of basic, and click apply. So now if you look at the sequence view down here, it shows the border. The first thing is the border, and then the second thing is the steel stitch. So we have the border and the steel stitch done. Okay. Now we need to work with the centerpiece because we also need to make that into stitches. So I'm going to go down to my sequence view, and I want to make sure that I get down here and I want to pick make sure I've chosen the correct piece. So I want my center section, which is the green. I could have also, I can select it in the sequence view, or I can just click on it up above. Sometimes the sequence view is easier to select things because it keeps you from accidentally clicking on the wrong thing. So I often do select with the sequence view for precision, okay? All right, so we've got our center selected. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to right click. I'm going to convert to, and this is again going to be a complex fill. Then I'm going to go up to the fill type in my properties box. I want it to be a motif again. And then this one, I chose pattern number 109. That was one that it's not real, it's not super dense, it's a little more open, and it works really well. So 109. And then again, I want the pattern length to be 3, so it's fairly dense, because remember, we're holding down the towel nap. So it needs to be relatively dense, okay? Then I'm going to click apply. And this one may take just a minute to do, because it's got a lot of stitches in it. My computer's pretty fast. So you might have some spinning here while this is thinking. Still going. Anybody? Oh, look, it went pretty quick. It didn't go as quick when I was working on the class. I remember it sat there for quite a while. So now I've got my center made into a motif stitch fill. I also want to make sure that I have that tie in and that tie off. So I'm going to go back up to my properties box and my commands tab. I'm going to tie in as basic. I'm going to tie off as basic, and I'm going to click apply. And again, it might take a minute for it to, because it has to rethink everything. So it might take a minute for it to finish. Still spinning. Okay, didn't take too long. That was pretty good. So now we have our, have to make sure that I didn't, yep, I want to make sure I didn't miss a step. So now we have the center, but we still need to do a couple more things. Now, when I first did this project many years ago, I learned something sewing these. They are very thick, you know, the towels are kind of thick, and you want the nap to cover really well and be nice and smooth like this one is, okay? So what I found out is that if I don't tell the computer where to start and stop the fill, I might possibly have a gap in my stitching. And it's because of the density of the towel and how thick this is. So I remember my first ones, they stitched out okay, but I had kind of a open gap somewhere in the center here. And what caused that is the direction in which the stitches were sewing. So I need to tell the computer to stitch, or tell the machine to stitch from one side to the other side, so that so it continuously goes across. and I don't have an open gap in the center somewhere. Okay. So what I learned by doing these is I had to change the start point and the stop point, and not just leave it at whatever default setting it was. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select that center section. The border was fine because it's narrow, but it was just the center that I had to do this in order to get them to really sew well. And I would also recommend, don't buy the really super, super, super heavy towels, because those really super heavy ones, there's a lot of nap in them, and it makes it hard for the machine to sew down all that nap. We are going to use a topping, of course, with this, but I would tell you to buy kind of the medium towels. They sew out a little better because of the nap, okay? So in order for me to change my starting and stopping point, I have it selected, and I'm going to go up and get the shape tool. The shape tool is the second tool down on the left toolbar. So I'm going to get the shape tool, and what I'm looking for is the green polka dot and the red polka dot. Now you can see it starts over here on the right and it ends over here on the left, but it's in the center. So what would happen when I did that is it would leave a gap, like right in here, a line would show there, and it would not fill in as well. So what I found is if I took the red dot and pulled it over to the left-hand corner of the diamond, and I took the red dot and pulled it over to the right-hand corner of the diamond, and then you click enter on your keyboard, it may spin for just a second. It recalculates how it sews, and it's going to sew now from the left to the right, and it does do much better. You might with those really super heavy towels, you might get a little bit of a gap, but if you look at my towel here, you can see it looks like it is filled in very nicely, and that's how I figured out how to do it. I had to sew it a couple of times and figure out what was causing the problem. Okay, so that's very important that you change that. From the left corner, you want the green dot in the left corner and the red dot in the right corner. Okay. All right, so now we need to, whoops, second here, sorry. We need to get our border. So we don't have the nice satin stitch border because we want that around there also. So I'm going to go back to my selection tool, top one. And then I am going to just copy this again. Remember how we did this before? I'm going to go up to the copy button, and then I'm going to go to the paste button, which is right next to it. Paste the second one. So if I look in my properties box or my sequence view, see there's two of them now. This one, then I want to make sure I got the second one selected. Right click, convert to a steel. And then it takes a minute for it to go. I've got my steel stitch. I'm going to look up in my properties box again, and I want my properties changed slightly. I'm going to use the width of 2, and I want to click apply. So it's a little narrower, and then I'm going to go up here again to the properties box to my commands tab. I'm going to make sure I got a tie in of basic, tie off of basic, and then I'm going to click apply. Okay, so if I click my little 3D view over here, you can see this a little bit better. So there is our center section, the letter, and the border. Okay, and it wasn't hard. As you do these a few times, you can do them very quickly. You do have to, if you have to change the letter in the center, it's actually almost as fast just to redo each one separately, because you still have to go in, you have to combine the letters and everything in the center. So I usually just do the whole thing. You can just do the center square if you want to too, but you have to change your letters for the different letters you're doing. Okay. All right, so now we have a couple things yet we have to do. We have to change, I'm going to put this off of the 3D. We need to look at our sequence view. I've also found out as I was stitching these, just so you know, The other thing I found out is that I need to stitch the center section first and then the border, because otherwise it wanted to kind of bunch up a little bit in the center, which was not helping that covering at all. So what I want to do is I want to change the sewing order in my sequence view. So I'm going to look at this. I want the border, which right now is first. I want that to be last. So I'm going to click these. I'm going to click the border color, which is the first color, closed, and then I'm going to grab it with my mouse. And I'm going to pull it down and drop it down on top of the last steel. And now the green is going to sew first, which is my letter section, and then the border section, so that it really sews better in that order. Okay. And I also would like it all to be in the same color. So as you can see in my example here, I picked a color that was kind of matchy to my towel, so that it isn't, you can do it contrasting, of course, if you'd like, but traditionally these kind of embossed patterns are usually kind of, you pick a color that matches your towel. And then what you're looking for is the negative space to come out. So I picked kind of a tannish color that matched my towel. So, but I would like them to be, I like it to be all one color. So I want to select, I'm going to select all of this. So let's deselect everything for now. And I'm going to go up to Edit, Select All. And I'm going to go down and I'm going to right click on the number one color box so that it makes it all one color. So that way the whole thing will sew at the same time. But if you look then in the sequence view, it's going to sew the center and then the steel of the center, then the border, and then the steel of the border. But they're all in one color. Okay. So it makes it real easy to put it on the machine and let it run. It does take a little while to do these. There's a lot of stitches. I'm looking at the top here. It says there's 52,000 stitches in it. So it does take a while to stitch them. Okay. And the other thing at this point, like when we did this class some years ago, we didn't have really super big hoops. Like now, my machine has a, it has a 10.5 by 16 hoop, 10 and 5/8 by 16. So I could actually sew this towel just like this, because I think it's actually about 9 by 9. We also have, if we have dream machines, so you don't have to do what I'm going to do. But I like to sew these on my PR. And my PR only has an 8-inch hoop. It's 8 inches by 14. So in order to conserve size, what I usually do is I like to rotate this so that it's narrower. And so what I do is I put my towel on like kind of sideways so that I don't have to worry about it. Now, if you want to leave it just like this, you can sew it just like this on your dream machine or on your luminaire, because you got a 9.5 by 9.5 hoop and it's only about 8.5 inches. So works great. But if you only have an 8 by 12 hoop, you will need to do what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to select all again. So Edit, Select All. And I'm going to take the whole thing, and the buttons up here are nice because there's the rotate left. I'm just going to rotate it to the left. 2 clicks. I'm going to go 1. Oh, I only had to do 1. I'm sorry, 1 click. So I want it, now it's square. So I don't have to worry about my hoop size so much. If you have the big hoops, you can sew it on point now. When we did this those years ago, that we didn't have those big hoops, so it's nice. So I am going to actually tip it in my hoop like this. And now I'm ready to save it. So I'm going to go up to File, Save As. I am going to save it on my desktop, and I'm going to call it S Monogram or Embossed Towel, whatever you want to call it. Okay, S Monogram. I'm going to leave it as a C2S file. Remember that's that working file, and we need that to be able to go back and fix something if we need to. So I'm going to save that, and then I'm going to go back up to File, Save As, and I'm going to choose then my type, and I want to use my PR. So I'm going to use the Brother Baby Lock multi-needle. If you do not have a PR, just choose the Brother Baby Lock PES version 9. So it's version 9 is the latest version. So just do version 9 and click save. And I've got that on my desktop. Okay. Now, the one thing that works really well when you're sewing these, especially if you're going to have it tipped in the hoop like this, because I have to use this for my 8x8 hoop or my 8x12 hoop that I use in my PR. I used my print function on my software. So I went up here to File and Print. And let's do Print Preview so we can look at it. Okay, so there's the Print Preview. And in the Settings button, I can tell the computer what to print. So I want it to be actual size. I would like it to have the crosshairs. I don't need the artworks because there are no artworks in it. I normally don't do the header or the footer because they're just extra stuff I don't really need. And I want to make sure I print out the stitches. Okay, and then let's click OK. So now I've got my crosshairs on there. Okay, now when you sew this, of course, it's going to end up being on point. But I am looking at my template, and I just make a template. You can do this a couple of different ways. You can use the template that you can use, like the Floriani template tearaway. You know, that template stuff that has the tacky stuff on the back works really well for this. Or I just used a piece of paper because I'd run out of the stuff. I just have a piece of paper and I put some tape on it and I taped it down onto my towel where I wanted. And I actually used a snowman sticker on mine in the center. So I knew exactly where the center of my design was. So that's another way you can do this. I do explain a little bit more about the sewing of the towel on the back of the instructions. So there's some sewing instructions too. But if you have questions, let me know. But then you can sew out, or you can print out this template. So you have that to put on your towel so you can get it centered the way you want it. And then I used my snowman so that I could center it on my PR. Or you can use that on your Luminaire, your Dream Machine, or your Quattro, whatever you have. Okay, so I did sew mine in this rotated orientation because of the size of my hoop. But if I was going to sew this on my Luminaire, I most likely would have just left it like this, up and down in the on point, and then I could just sew it like that on my Luminaire. So it depends on what machine you're sewing on. Okay. So the rest of the paper that I uploaded has the sewing instructions. You do want to use, we'll talk a little bit about the sewing. I use the template to help me get it lined up. I put the tacky stabilizer, either Perfect Stick or the dime peel and stick, in the hoop. And then you want to stick your towel down to that. I then float 2 pieces of tearaway underneath because these are very dense designs. So I use 2 pieces of tearaway, a piece of the tacky stabilizer, and then on top, for towels, I usually use the Heat and Gone, which is the stuff that you touch with the iron to get rid of it. Because then when you wash the towels, it doesn't wash away the water-soluble topping. If you use water-soluble topping as you wash the towel, the little nubbies will start coming up through the stitches. So that's why you want the Heat and Gone, because Heat and Gone will stay there. It will stay under there. It doesn't come out. It doesn't wash out. It will dissolve out with the iron where it's not supposed to be, but it'll stay underneath the stitches. Okay, so that's what you want to do for your stabilizer. And I do have the full sewing instructions on here. But those of you with the larger machines, now it's nice. We can just sew it in the orientation as you see it on the screen now. Okay, instead of having to tip it, because I had to tip mine because I sewed my sample towel out from the class. I sewed it out on my PR, so I had to tip it because I only have an 8-inch hoop on that. So, okay. So are there any questions? That is the monogram towel. Wasn't that easy? It's actually very easy. It doesn't take that long to make them. It takes quite a while to sew them, so be prepared that you will be sewing for a while. You don't have to make them this large. This is nice for a bath towel. You know, if you're going to put these on a hand towel, you probably need to make them about half this big. So you can alter the sizes of your squares if you would like them to be smaller. Okay. So are there any questions? Otherwise, we're about done. You guys did great. This is a really fun project. This is one of my favorite ones, and they always turn out so nice, and they make such nice gifts. And no one else is going to get this. You know, would you reduce the size for a hand towel? Yes, I would, Marianne. So yes, I would reduce the size I would probably start out and make it the size you want it. So don't like just reduce this one. I would probably tell you to just make the size you want. So you kind of want to look at your hand towel and maybe measure with the ruler kind of how big. I would say maybe about half, because this is about 8.5. So I don't think you'd want it more than maybe 4 inches wide, maybe 5 inches wide. So yes, you can shrink it, Lynn. The only thing that would be like, this is really big. And if you would need, I would tell you to redo it that size, because if you shrank it that much, that is a lot. And you know, the software does a really good job of reducing, but there is a limit. And that's more than 30% smaller. So I would tell you to make it the size you want it and just do another one if it's going to be that much smaller. Okay. So yes, you can make it any size you want, but I would not go up too much bigger or down too much small, just because of the density of the stitches in these. Okay. No, you can go up and down. I mean, you can go up and down a lot, but when I'm doing real dense stuff like this, I don't like to go up and down more than about maybe 30 to 50%. And even that's a lot, just because it might not stitch out quite as well as you want it to. So if I know I'm going to do something really small, I just make it the size I want it, because then you know it's going to sew out well if you made it the size you wanted it to begin with. Okay. So you have to kind of think about that. So I know that this one would be on my bath towel, but then if I wanted to make the hand towel one, I might make a matching one in the size I actually wanted it for the hand towel, because it's going to be probably at least 50% smaller on a hand towel. Okay. And then if you want to put it on even on a washcloth, you know, you'd really have to have it small. So I would just tell you to make them the size that you want, you know, make a set. You can see it didn't take too long. So, you know, it does, Marianne, doesn't it? Marianne says it makes more sense than when we did it a long time ago. And I've learned a lot of tricks since then too. And I'm more, you know, fluent in the software. So yes, it is. These motif fills are very dense, and I I like I resize in the software, yes, but if I know I'm going to make something, I want something 8 inches, 5 inches, and 2 inches, I'm going to make each design those sizes instead of just taking the largest one and making it smaller. So I would tell you to make them the size you want them, because they're going to sew out better. And this software does actually reduce and enlarge quite well. But you know, it's one thing. I usually just make the sizes I want. That's the best way to do it. Yeah, don't you think? Aren't those nice gifts? And they make great wedding gifts. You know, and I know some of you wanted to make them for graduation gifts. And you know, everybody needs towels. And then these are something that no one else will give them. You know, this is something that you made it. It's customized to them. You know, you can do them with their first initial, their last initial, their name. Like Denise said, she did Mr. Right and Mrs. Always Right. You know, that kind of thing. So there's lots of different things you can do with them. So. Okay, so next time in June, it's what is the June class? It would be June what? Second, I'm looking at my calendar here. Sunday, June 7th. So June 7th, we will be doing some red work. I'm so excited. I learned one little trick, and I learned how to do red work. I mean, I've never really gotten a good result with red work in the software, and it was just a silly little trick that if I would have read it years ago, I would have understood it. So we're going to make red work in June. Okay, do some drawing in the software. I like to draw in it, and then use a graphic, and then we'll do some red work. And then again, I put this up in the group in Dropbox. Remember, Dropbox link is like the first post on the group, right on Sessions on Software. And if you have any questions about the sewing, how to sew it, let me know. But make a template. It's really easy if you do the template and have the grids on there, then you can get it lined up really easy. So, okay. Now the instructions are done like the original towel on the side like this. So you would have to reorient your snowman sticker. Like mine is, oriented differently because I did mine in the 8-inch version. So if you're doing it on point, you have to turn your, so the instructions are set for it to be on the side, but I just did it the same way as we did them before. So, okay. Any other questions? Sorry, hopefully you're not hearing my cat is talking to me. She decided she needed to talk to everybody. So any other questions? Is everybody going to be making towels? You better put some pictures up of your towels that you're making. Any other questions, anybody? Okay. I think everybody's still here, and nobody's asleep yet, are you? You're very welcome. So in June 7th is the next class on Sessions on Software, and we will be doing the red work. And if you have any questions, message me through Facebook or text me, whatever you can get hold of me that way. Just a reminder that starting tomorrow, the store will be open on Monday and Wednesday from 10 to 2 in Iowa City, and then Tuesday and Thursday from 10 to 2 in Davenport. So right now, that's going to be our limited hours, but we are going to be taking repairs in too. And yes, there is a class next Sunday, Marianne. Next Sunday will be on Sew Along with Jan, and we're going to be doing we're going to be starting Let Freedom Ring. So if you want to do Let Freedom Ring, the little flag wall hanging, if you don't have the pattern yet, you can message me and I will send you a PayPal invoice. It's $15. And that is what we're going to do for the next 2 weeks. We're going to do Let Freedom Ring. We're going to learn how to embroider it next week. And then the following week, we'll be putting it together. Okay, so that'll be on Sew Along with Jan. All right. Okay, thanks everybody. Have a good evening. And if you have any questions, let me know. Good night.